72,000 years. That's how long this bone had been sitting in the ground, an inner ear bone preserved in the sediment beneath what is now American Falls, Idaho. It was old before Homo sapiens had begun to migrate out of Africa. Old before language, before agriculture, before the first city was a glimmer in anyone's imagination. In October 2024, scientists extracted viable DNA from that bone, and from a 13,000-year-old tooth found in Sheridan Pit, Ohio. Then they did something that sounds like a plot from a Michael Crichton novel. They used that ancient genetic code, fragments stitched together from two fossils separated by 60,000 years, to engineer living, breathing animals. 3 wolf pups. The species Oenesian durus, the dire wolf, had been extinct for over 12,000 years. Extinction has always been biology's final word. The last chapter. The period at the end of the sentence. Species die, their ecosystems adapt, and the world reshuffles the deck without them. That's been the arrangement for 3.8 billion years. But what if the period could become a comma? What if extinction is no longer permanent, not because nature rewrote its rules, but because we learned how to break them? A company called Colossal Biosciences, headquartered in Dallas, Texas, claims to have done exactly that. They call it de-extinction. And whether their claim holds up to scientific scrutiny or collapses under it, what they've achieved technically is genuinely unprecedented. On October 1st, 2024, 3 pups were born. Romulus and Remus, named for the mythological founders of Rome, twin brothers suckled by a she-wolf in the ancient stories. And Khaleesi, named for a character from Game of Thrones, the television series that made millions of people care about an animal most had never heard of. The naming is worth pausing on. Mythology, pop culture, and cutting-edge molecular biology, braided together in 3 wolf pups in a Texas facility. By April 2025, one of them was on the cover of Time magazine. A massive white wolf staring out at the world with ancient eyes, or at least ancient genes. Colossal started with grey wolf cells, the closest living relative of the dire wolf, though recent genetic research has revealed that relationship is more distant than anyone assumed. The dire wolf belongs to a separate lineage entirely. Using CRISPR gene editing, Colossal scientists made 20 precise changes to the grey wolf genome. 15 of those edits restored ancient gene variants, DNA sequences that had not existed in any living creature for over 12,000 years. The previous record for this kind of work was 8 edits, also from Colossal's own woolly mouse project, a stepping stone that received a fraction of the attention. The dire wolf project more than doubled that record. The process itself involved 5 stages: extracting ancient DNA from fossils, reconstructing the genome from fragments, comparing it to modern wolf genomes, editing target genes with CRISPR precision, and implanting modified cells into surrogate mothers. A complete pipeline from a 72,000-year-old bone to a living, breathing pup. The celebration lasted less than a week. On April 8, 2025, the very same week Colossal unveiled their pups to the world, Scientific American published a response that landed like cold water. Many scientists say what Colossal produced this time is not, in fact, the dire wolf. The article was direct. Rather, they say, it is a grey wolf whose genome has been edited to give it some dire wolf-like traits. This isn't a pedantic argument over taxonomy. This is a fundamental disagreement about what Colossal actually accomplished, and whether de-extinction is a scientific term or a marketing one. Take a grey wolf. Change 20 out of roughly 20,000 genes. Have you created a new species? Have you resurrected an extinct one? Or have you produced a genetically modified grey wolf with a handful of Ice Age cosmetic features? The answer depends entirely on what you believe a species is. If a species is defined by specific genetic markers, key sequences that code for size, coat, jaw structure, then these pups carry dire wolf genes that haven't existed in 12 millennia. That matters. But if a species is defined by its complete genome, its full evolutionary lineage, its ecological role in a vanished ecosystem, then 20 edits out of 20,000 is roughly 0.1%. The pups look the part. They carry fragments of the original script. Whether they are dire wolves is a question that exposes how little we've actually agreed on what makes a species a species. While the internet argued about taxonomy, something quieter and arguably more important was happening. The same gene editing technology that produced Romulus and Remus has already been deployed for an animal that desperately, urgently needs help. The red wolf. Fewer than 300 remain on Earth. Most live in captivity. The wild population is so small, so genetically fragile, that a single outbreak of disease, one bad season, could erase them entirely. Colossal's genetic tools are now being applied to strengthen the red wolf's gene pool, to give conservation biologists options they didn't have 12 months ago. This is the application that won't sell magazines or generate viral tweets. It may be the one that matters most. Colossal frames their work not as spectacle, but as infrastructure. The 5-step methodology, fossil DNA extraction, genome reconstruction, comparative analysis, precision editing, and reproductive implantation, is designed to be a transferable playbook. In principle, it could be applied to any species with recoverable genetic material. The woolly mammoths, the thylacine. Each presents its own technical challenges, but the core workflow scales. And the conservation applications are immediate. The same techniques that allowed 20 precision edits on a dire wolf genome can be used to bolster genetic diversity in endangered populations, not in some hypothetical future, but right now. And still, the question lingers. Dire wolves were apex predators that evolved to hunt in an ecosystem that no longer exists. They ran alongside giant ground sloths and Columbian mammoths across Pleistocene grasslands that have been gone for 10,000 years. If you bring them back, where do they go? What do they hunt? What land is available for a predator that hasn't existed since humans were still figuring out agriculture? There's a resource question too, sharper and less romantic. Every dollar spent resurrecting extinct species is a dollar not spent protecting living ones. Or is that a false choice, as Colossal insists? The technologies overlap. The funding arguably does not. There is a photograph. George R.R. Martin, the man who wrote Dire Wolves into the global imagination, who made dire wolf a household phrase through 7 seasons of television and 5 best-selling novels, is holding one of the pups in his arms. The pup is asleep. Martin is grinning like a man who just watched fiction become reality, because in some strange way, he did. His stories made people care about an animal they'd never seen. Now that animal, or something very like it, is sleeping against his chest in a facility in Texas. Somewhere else in that same building, the unnamed scientists who extracted viable DNA from a 72,000-year-old bone fragment are presumably not on magazine covers. They're probably running gels and checking PCR results, the unglamorous machinery that makes moments like this possible. Ben Lamb, Colossal's CEO, framed it in the simplest possible terms. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull and made healthy dire wolf puppies. Strip away the marketing, the media circus, the scientific infighting over taxonomy, and what remains is still extraordinary. For the first time in history, humans reached back into deep time and pulled something living out of it. Not a fossil, not a DNA sequence in a database. A breathing animal with ancient genes coursing through its veins. The door that opened in October 2024 cannot be closed. The only question that matters now is what we choose to carry through it, and whether we'll be wise enough to know the difference between what we can resurrect and what we should.